I hope you are well. We're here with Mr. Julian Golding. He's very graciously agreed to speak to us about mastering the 200. And Julian really and truly is a past master. Honestly, a past master at the 200. I was speaking to him yesterday, and I was saying to him, literally, the 200 and Julian are just match made in heaven. So it's not as easy for us mere mortals to master. So I thought we'd ask him how he did it, because I know he worked very, very hard to make it look so easy. Before we start, I just wanted to do some housekeeping. For those of you who are new to us, we're all using home Wi-Fi, so sometimes the connection cannot be as great. If you are having problems as we just did, please reboot your browser window, go back to the invitation email, click the green join button, and it will bring you back and refresh everything. Hopefully that will solve everything for you. If that doesn't, turn off any phones or any tablets or anything near you that might be using your broadband bandwidth, so that you slow up speeds, because we will be showing some videos later, and hopefully that will take care of everything. As you can see in the chat box on the right hand side, if you have any questions, we'll be stopping along the way. Julian will be answering any of your questions as we're going through. So without further ado, Mr. Julian Golding, thank you very, very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks for inviting me to come on.
It's an absolute pleasure. We were talking yesterday and going through your history, and you were on the GB team for over 10 years, which is, you were just a staple on the GB team from juniors right through. You were there 200s, 4x1s, sometimes for the 100 meters as well. You were telling me just now you've represented as well. So thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to start, as I do when we have such illustrious guests with us. I wanted to show everybody exactly what we're talking about when I'm talking about a 10-year career. So, Julian, we've got here World Junior Championships in Lisbon back in '94. How was that as a first major championships for
I absolutely loved it, but can I just quickly backtrack before that? Actually, is that I competed at the 3A's Junior Championships that year, and as a sprinter, you always want to do your best. You always want to run fast, and I had a year where I kind of stagnated in terms of the 200 meters, and I couldn't break 21.4. I ran 21.4 pretty much for the whole year. And I think the qualifying at that time for the World Juniors, I think it was 21.25, I think it was. And I just couldn't break 21.4. And this is 200 meters talking about. And when it got to the trials, everything just kind of clicked. It just clicked. I got to the trials. Remember the heat, I ran 21, I think 21.1, like easy. And I was like, wow, all the hard work is eventually paid off. Then in the semi-final, I ran 21.05. Then I ran a PB in the final, I ran 21.02. Which means obviously I won the trials and I got a qualification for the World Juniors. But the day before that, I ended up winning the 100 meters as well. And I wasn't the favorite. Jason Gardner was the favorite. But I'd run 10.4 the whole year. I'm literally, every time I stepped on the track, I ran 10.4. Anyway, I said it to say that by the time I got to the World Juniors, I was confident I was going to do well. And I did do reasonably well. I should have done better than I did. But yes, I made the final for the 100. Finished in seventh, I think finished 8th in the final, and I just missed that narrowly from making the final for the 200 because I was literally just tired. But yeah, but I got a gold in the relay, which was great, and that really kind of inspired me and spurred me on to take this sport more seriously.
Absolutely. I mean, if nothing else, that would have shown you really are a championship performer, for you to step up at trials and then to win a medal at championships after running. How many rounds would you have run for the 100 meters and the 200 before the 4x1?
Yeah, it would have been 8 rounds then, because back then it was 4 rounds of the 100, 4 rounds of the 200. and then you had 2 rounds of the relay and a final for the relay. So it's quite a lot. You had to work extremely hard in order to run championship rounds, because I mean I know now they've kind of curtailed it now, so you don't run as much. But back in the day, for the World Juniors, you had a heat in the morning, and you had second round in the evening. Then the following day, early evening, the semi-final and the final, and that was right the way. That was right the way through. Your career, you had 8 rounds, 4 rounds of the 100 rounds. So it was tough. It wasn't easy. But you know what? I loved it. I absolutely loved it. For me, the stadium was my stage for me to perform and for me to show, myself and show the world, what I could do.
Absolutely. Now, I remember, because you made the senior team before I did. I remember watching you on TV. It's just performance after performance after performance, and it was so impressive that there was so much consistency. I'm a big fan of consistency, and I know we'll talk about later the body of work that you did in training to prepare yourself to be consistent at championships was something to behold. So move on. We've got 97. You've got the World Indoors in Paris. 200 meters, made the semi there.
Yeah, that's my first international for GB. In terms of going to make that was for me a great experience. I think I finished 3rd in the trials that year for 200 meters behind Doug Turner actually from Wales. And I had a decent year. But yeah, to go to the World Championships and have that experience is really good. But also having the World Junior experience helped me as well, because with the more experience you have, you're able to kind of deal with more championship performances once you've got that initial experience. But I really loved it. I didn't run as well as I wanted to, but I made the semi-final. Ran against a guy named what's his name again? Oh, it'll come back to me in a minute. But yeah, it was a great experience for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Perfect. And then you move on. You've got obviously the world champs and the European under 23s, Ljubljana. Was that the first one? The first under 23 champs. Yes, I remember that one.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It was inaugural. Yeah, first inaugural under 23s championships. Let me backtrack actually. World Championships, the relay, that was amazing. That was absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you why it was amazing. In life, particularly in sport, you have to pounce on every opportunity that you get and every experience you get. I was only down to run in a heat. I wasn't down to run in a semi-final final. Richard Simmons was the event coach at the time for the relay team. And before we went, he already had his ideal 4 for the final and semi-final and the heat. He said to me, "You know what? I know you run really, really well, but you're not going to be running in the final." I said, "That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. It's just nice to be there and have the experience." So I'd run the last leg in the heat, and I must admit, I'd run really, really well. I made the semi-final for the 200, and I was in good shape, and I'd already run a PB in 100 a couple of weeks before. Marlon Devonish, great friend of mine, teammate, he got injured in a heat actually. He ran the second leg of the heat, and he got injured. Because he got injured, I was able then to run a semi-final and subsequent final and get a medal. That's why it's important that if an opportunity comes up, you've got to really pounce on it. Obviously, the team was really upset that Marlon couldn't run, but he got injured. I wasn't down to run anyway, so the opportunity came up for me to run, and I ended up getting a medal. So that was a great experience as well. Great team. Really good team.
Yeah, amazing camaraderie. I remember you guys were just solid, which I think was a testament to the amount of medals you guys came home with over the years, because you could slot you guys in any kind of combination. Darren, any combination. Marlon, Christian, it would just work.
Yeah, because I remember, I think Darren Campbell ran the first leg in the heat, then ran the second leg in the semi-final and final. Darren Braithwaite ran the first leg in the final, and I think he ran the third leg in the heat. Doug Walker was in that race as well. He ran the third leg. So we had a really good team, a consistent team, and because everybody had different skills, we're able to just mix and match and run different legs. So it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed running last leg. I wasn't the quickest person on the team, but give me a rolling start, I could run. And when I got the baton, I was 4th place, and I ran past the Cuban and finished 3rd, just with a lean at the end. So I remember Mike McFarlane taught us, when they come to the end of the race, you make sure you lean, you dip for that line. You make sure you get that line as fast as you can. And if it means you to dip, you got to dip. So Mac did well there in terms of teaching Matt to dip and remembering to dip as well at the right time.
Yeah. I've got some video later on, and one of them you're running the 3rd leg, the other one you're running the last leg. So it shows you flexibility of being able to, as you just spoke about, the other members of the team, sometimes they're running 1st, sometimes 3rd, being able to run as many legs as possible is obviously also key to the success of the team, because as you said, anything can happen.
Definitely being adaptable is really important as well, because like I said, you don't know what opportunities might come up, through injury or ill health. These things do happen, and you can't, if you practice running 1st leg, but something happens, you have to run last leg, then you just have to adapt to it and do it. And it's a true test of character as well. I would probably be a bit skeptical if I asked someone to do a leg they didn't want to do and they're and ahhing about it. I'll be skeptical about that, because you should be able to be flexible, particularly in a relay team. You can't just practice for one leg. You've got to practice for different legs, because different scenarios might come up and do come up.
Absolutely. So the big year, 1998. So we start off with the European indoors in Valencia. We got 4th place there.
Yes, that was a year I ran 20.46 indoors. I had a fantastic indoor season. Really, I should have won Valencia. Absolutely gutted. I finished 4th, and I remember after the meeting, I'd gone through the call room. I went for media, and I remember going outside and sitting on the step crying. I don't normally cry. I'm not really that emotional, but that's when I realised I actually really want this, and this needs to be my profession. This is what I want to do. There's nothing better in doing something you enjoy and getting paid to do it. But when you realise that you didn't capitalise on an opportunity, that hit home to me, and I cried. It's probably one of the few times I actually cried in my sport. But that's when I realised, you know what, that's not going to happen to me again. Whatever opportunity I get now, I'm going to make sure I capitalise on that. And do my best, because sport is short-lived anyway, and it's an opportunity. And if you get the opportunity to do what you're doing and you enjoy it and you're getting paid for it, then do it, because before you know it, 20 years down the line now, I'm now reminiscing. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I say to my athletes is take it personally. Training is hard. Competition is hard, and it's cutthroat. So just take it personally, because like you said, it's gone. Then we've got the World Cup and the European Cup relays there as well. So you're
that's right, so the IAAF World Cup, that was in Johannesburg. I ran the 3rd leg there. We ran 38.08 that day. Really good team. The guys ran really well. European Cup again, I ran the last leg there. We ran 38.1. And Budapest. Wow, Budapest for me was one of the championships I really remember, because that's my first individual medal. And I remember in the heat in Budapest, I tried to send the clip over to you, but for some reason it didn't work. I'd run okay during the course of the year, and I mentioned that you said that I was running consistently. Sometimes, but sometimes I was inconsistent, because I could run 20.8 one day, run 20.5 one day, and it was difficult to find that consistency that I really need and achieve. But when I got to Budapest, training had gone well, preparation had gone really well. I remember being in the heat. I think it was lane 6 or lane 7 in the heat, and I'd run 20:38, easing down into a -1.2 headwind. Boom! That's when I knew then, I'd arrived.
Right.
I mean, when I mean arrived, I was in great shape to do well. It just takes one race to change your whole dynamic, change your whole outlook. It takes one race to change everything, and that one race did it for me. Really confident going into semi-final. I ran 20.6 in the semi-final into another strong headwind. Obviously, the competition was fierce, but the final didn't go according to plan. Now, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? I wish I could kind of rewind and do things differently, because I wouldn't have done what I would have done in the final. If you don't mind me just walking through the final with you, it was me. I was in lane 4. Doug Walker was in lane 3, and Doug Turner was in lane 6. I never forget this. And I hadn't beaten both of those guys before, because we'd run all year, and Doug Turner and Doug Walker had beaten me consistently throughout the year. So I'd run well in the heat, run well in the semi-final. My game plan was just to run my own race, and I had my plan of my race in my head. I thought, right, this is what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. The gun went, and Doug Walker caught me earlier than I expected, and because he caught me so early, my race plan went out the window. And then because I couldn't catch Doug Turner, I was like, oh my gosh, my race plan gone out the window. So instead of me focusing on what I had to do, going through the race plan in my mind, race plan had gone out the window. So literally it was just survival. Just had to really get to line and get a medal. I knew the government had gone, because Doug flew past me. He ran a fantastic race. Doug Turner was still ahead of me. An athlete from Belgium named Norway named Guillermo. He'd won it 4 years previous. He was in that race as well. He's a person actually I ran against at the World Indoor Championships. I couldn't remember his name. Anyway, so literally the last 100, forget technique, just get to the line. Yeah, forget technique, just get to them. I've done the training, done the work. I'm in good shape. I'm not going to win it. Just get something out of it. And thankfully, I came away with a bronze medal. So yeah, it was great. I mean, to come away with something is great. Obviously, I would have loved to have won it. But I was going to show kids when I'm older, this is what your dad achieved. This is what. At least I came away with something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to get your perspective, and like the frame by frame. We'll go through the videos later. So obviously that's Budapest, and then the big one, Commonwealth Games. I'm just going to go straight to the double screen right now. Commonwealth Games. Two goals.
That was
200.
for me. Yeah, I mean, every athlete has a highlight of their career. That's definitely one of the highlights of my career. Obviously, making the Olympic team was great as well. Back then, we had four rounds back then, and I can still remember each round like it was yesterday. Training had gone remarkably well. We did a lot of traveling, because remember, like I said, if I backtrack slightly, we did the World Cup in Johannesburg in South Africa. So we spent about a week in South Africa, and then we got to Malaysia quite early, and training had gone really, really well. I had some really good training partners as well, which helped. But everything kind of just ticked, and you get to a championship or you get to an event where things just click. I was never really a one race person where you have one flat out race or one competition. I like to kind of smooth and ease my way into a competition. So rounds, I much prefer rounds than a one-off race. But I remember the first round, I was in lane 1, around 2094 in that round. I didn't even come out first gear, and I thought, wow, I've never run 20.9 so easy. It felt really, really comfortable. So that was great. That was in the morning, and then went back to the hotel or back to our apartments, had a sleep, had something to eat, came back in the evening, had Christian Malcolm with me in the second round, and he'd run really well. He ran 20. I think he ran 20.5 that year at the World Juniors. He had a fantastic year, and he was still a junior. And also, a good friend of mine. So remember running in the second round, ran 20.5. Comfortable. Christian Michaels next to me. I think we both jogged the last 50, and next one I knew I was in shape then. And then my coach said to me, "Right, Jules, you're in good shape now. Just keep doing what you're doing." But also I had the disappointment of Budapest in the back of my mind as well. And in the semi-final, I had Doug Walker with me and John Regis. And again that year I hadn't beaten Doug Turner, so he was kind of like my nemesis that year. But I was confident, I was running well, and I said, right, Jules, now you can execute your plan. Irrespective of what Doug does or anybody else does, you run your own race. And in that race...
I have a video for that, so if you want to commentate over that, yeah.
Oh, okay,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. So let's get that one up.
Okay.
And so this is the semi-final
Yeah.
of the Commonwealth Games. And if you can walk us through it, because I've watched this so many times. It's just amazing.
Oh, that's the final. Is that the final? Oh,
No,
semi-final.
semi.
Oh, semi-final. Okay. Yeah, just on the start line, looking pensive, but yeah, very nervous, but also really relaxed. So even though it's quite tense, in my mind and my feelings, my body was, I felt loose, I felt confident, I was relaxed. But yeah. But I've got my race plan in my mind of how I'm going to execute that race, and it's just to literally stay relaxed. So I knew that Doug was going to be tough to beat because he'd run well all year. John Regis was there as well. So my main thought, just react to the gun. Simple as that. React to the gun and do what you're doing. Mechanics and all that will flow once I react to the gun. Stay down, stay low, catch person as quickly as possible. And I did. I caught Doug, and outside was Matt Shervington in lane 7. And once from here now, raise my hips now, pump my arms, and just float home. And don't try to do any more than that. And right here, I'm looking around, I shut off now. Really, I could have run 20.1 there. It was
Exactly.
so comfortable. Sometimes you never know how fast you're going to run. If I knew he was going to run 20.3, I probably would have run a bit faster. But yeah, that was comfortable for me. I was a personal best at the time, so I knew he was going to run fast in the final. It'd have been great to run faster, but the most important thing is to win. Just come to the bend here. Literally, I'm raising my hips now, pumping my arms, getting my knees nice and tall, staying relaxed. As my coach says, get your arms, hands to eye level, pump arms, and your legs will follow. But don't try to do any more than that because your body can't physically go any faster. I'm really comfortable here. I'm looking around. And it's like I said, everything just clicked. And it's nice when things click because there's an element of confidence there. So here I'm staying low, I'm driving my arms, getting my knees to my chest, staying close to the line, but not too close. Obviously, if you touch the line, you're going to be disqualified. Roughly about here now, being to raise my hips, pump my arms, and just stay relaxed because you can't go any faster. Your body's hit maximum velocity. Stay relaxed and run all the way to the line. Great memories there, man. I tell you, great memories.
I was thinking you didn't run the last 40 meters. You just
No, I didn't. But that's when your body's is really relaxed. You don't know how fast you're going to run sometimes, and I'm not pressured. I've got nobody next to me. I know everybody's behind me, so you can relax. Here's the final now. The highlight of my career. Yeah, but plan was just to literally get the guy outside me, which was a Cypriot guy. Come around the bend and just pump my arms, and keep going. Once I'm in front, I knew nobody was going to pass me. Once I'm in front, I was stronger than anybody else there, and it's literally just run for the line. So yeah, 2018 the time, and it'd be great to run that one. Then I'm jumping around for joy, just glad because
Julian.
With a piss back of my mouth. Do you know what? I messed up championship before. I weren't going to do it again. So I said, put a person back on my. I'm glad that I got rid of that demon.
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed, or the races when you seem to just get it exactly how you want it. Your transition through the relay box, it's like, okay, you're building, and then it's this absolute slingshot out, and then it's like air between you and everybody else. That conversion is huge.
It's almost like holding yourself off but that's stuff that we did in real time. The transition, for example, I might run around the bend from the 50 mark to half down the home straight. So what we'll try to get that from a flying start. So we'd work on that. Work on that. So it became second nature once you got interest, particularly when you people to do. It's tough. But once you do it, your muscles have memory and your muscles don't forget. As long as you repeat that muscle action, you can do it.
Mhm.
But that's something that worked on a lot, particularly in training with Mike McFarlane.
Yeah, absolutely.
And was actually who coached me towards the end of my career.
I have the 1998. Oh, there's a 4x1s. We'll come back to the 4x1s.
Yeah.
So let's on. So we now have 99 world champs in Seville. Do you remember the heat?
Yes. Oh my God, I forget that. I never forget that. It was 40 degrees every day that we're there. Every day. And I think the day of my final, it was 45 degrees. So you again had to adapt. You warm up. My warm up normally takes about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. 20 minutes you're warm. So you had to then adapt a different philosophy going into major championships, because you can't walk for an hour because you'll be dehydrated. It's unbelievable. I haven't experienced heat like that before in my entire life. 45 degrees average it was in Seville, but a great experience being there. Again, I got there in good shape. Training had gone well. I won the trials a couple of weeks before. My first race actually of that year, I ran 2020, again easing down in America, in Fullerton. And sometimes when you run fast in America, sometimes you question, oh, listen, am I really in this shape? Is it times dodge? You just don't know, because I didn't expect to run that fast, if I be honest with you. But yeah, I had a great year. The whole season went really, really well. And when I got to Seville, I remember running in the heat. I'd lane 8 in the heat, around 20.4 in the heat, comfortable. I thought, wow, I'm in good shape here. Again, warmed up for about 20 minutes because, you were so hot. Second round, I believe, if I remember correctly, who had the second round? I can't remember who I did my second round, but I ran 20:32 in the second round. Comfortable. I had Obadeli Thompson with me actually in the second round, a great 100-meter sprinter. Then in the semi-final, I had with me Maurice Green, subsequently wanted to win it. I ran 20:28 in the semi-final, finishing third, and in the final around 20.4. Bit disappointed in the final for various reasons. I'd lane 1. Not that I'm making excuses, but Frankie Fredericks pulled out. He was supposed to be in lane 2. So he pulled out, so I had nobody in lane 2. That had Maurice Green in lane 3. So there was a massive gap. And then you can argue back then Maurice Green was the best bend runner at the time then, and he was favourite. Having run 20 to 20 flat in the semi-final. So I had a massive gap between myself in lane 1 and Maurice Green in lane 3, and nobody in lane 2. So it wasn't the best start. It did kind of put me off actually. So I didn't have the best race. I ran 20.4, finished 7th for the World Championship. So, you know what? At least that year, I was ranked top 10 in the world on merit rankings. Had a great year that year, and you can't ask for more than that. And I'm still progressing, still getting better. And for me, the best was still a great year. A good year for me. And it's an opportunity.
Yeah. So 2000. Got the European indoors, and we'll talk about indoor 200s later. But so everybody watching, after we've been through this, we're gonna break down all the different parts of the 200, and Julian's gonna give us a little masterclass on how to do it. So yeah, we've got the European indoors in Ghent. We've got bronze there. So it's one up from the fourth.
Yeah, one up from the fourth. It wasn't my finest hour. I didn't do a lot. Even though I ran 20.46 indoors, I didn't do a lot of indoors. I think I only had about 3 indoor seasons in my entire career. But Ghent was again, I should have won Ghent, and the mistake I made there, I didn't run fast enough in each heat, because once you do your heat, the winners from each heat go into the preferred lanes, which are obviously lanes 6 and 5. And I slowed down too much, and I got I lane 4 in the semi-final. Then again, end up getting lane 3 in the in the final. So I didn't run great. And probably one of those championships I like to kind of forget. But saying that, I've got a bronze medal. I can't complain, and everything is still heading towards the Olympic Games for Sydney. Sydney's one of probably my biggest disappointments, really, because what I didn't is that I was sick during the trials. I had a blood disorder, and it wasn't picked up till after. And I'd run the heat, struggled in the heat at the 3As. I think I ran 21.1 or 21.2. Then I got eliminated in the semi-final, ran 21.5. And then found out later on that I had a blood disorder, which affected the amount of oxygen that my blood was getting. So, I was lethargic. I didn't realise until I had a blood test. So yeah, one of my disappointments. Yeah, great making the team and being part of the relay team. Our relay team was subsequently disqualified in a heat. There was we actually dropped the baton, unfortunately. So I didn't actually get a chance to run in the Olympic staging. That is my biggest regret. Saying that, you got to take the positive out of everything. At least I was selected. At least I was there, had the Olympic experience. But it would have been great to actually run on the Olympic track, and that's perhaps one of my biggest disappointments.
Absolutely. I remember meeting you guys as you were coming back. We were going down the tunnel. You were like, how are you going? And you were just like, good luck, girls, just go for it. And we were like, what's happened? So we did understand, and they were just like, no, just go for it. You guys were still so positive. It really spurred us on, because it was just like, okay, still got jobs to do. So
exactly.
Quarter final for the World Champs in Paris. 200 meters there. Yeah.
So Paris was my third World Championships. Fourth, if I include the World indoors. Paris was the 2003 was a good year for me, because I had two years of injury. 2001, 2002. I was pretty much out for 2001. And 2002 again, I was coming back from an injury, so it was nice to come back and to be part of the national team again, be part of the international team, and I'd run well all year. Starting from the indoors from 2003, I'd run PBs indoors. I ran a massive PB. I ran my PB going into the indoors in 2003 was 6:88, and I ran 6:72. And then the 200 meters indoors, actually, the 3As, I'd run 21.1, comfortable. I reckon I would have run PB of the 200 meters. I pulled my hamstring. I think my body was reacting because it's been so long since I run so fast. And then I had a great, build up towards the 2003 season. Training had gone well. John Regis was coaching me at that time as well. It's a philosophy. We knew my weaknesses. So going to 2003 has some really I got the better out of most of them, which is great, for my event, but got to change right there. Like I said before, sometimes you get championships, it just wasn't there in the heat. I ran 20.8 in the heat. Really, I should be running faster than that. It didn't quite happen. Second in the final. 3 months in the World Championship. And again, it wasn't my final. I made the final and run well. You have to appreciate sometimes it doesn't happen. It's not always going to be your day. But it didn't happen for me. The funny thing is, after the championship, I ran better. So all my events after the World Championships, I'd run really well. I had a really good, solid season. Through 20.4. I just didn't get it together at that particular championships. But that's sport for you. Sometimes you have great days, and sometimes Yeah, bad days.
Absolutely. It's a testament to how you move on afterwards.
Yeah,
That's the real
definitely.
thing. Okay, so just a summary there. Your PBs. We'll talk about your 150s in a bit later. 14.6 in training, and even the 15.3 age 20.
Yeah,
Those are decent times. The 60 meters, the 100,
yeah,
and then obviously your 200 is your baby, literally. But the fact that you can
yeah,
hold your own in all of those disciplines just shows what a well-rounded athlete. It's not just about one event, it's about building the whole picture.
definitely, definitely. Every event, for example, 100 meters complements my 200 meters, and vice versa. If I did, if I was to critique that, I really should have done more hundreds when I was preparing for the 200 meters. It just didn't quite work out that way. I really should have ran under 10, 10 20. I trained for the 100. I just didn't get a chance to run it for the course of the season. So that was probably be a disappointment for me. I should have run more hundreds than I did. But the hundreds, complement my 200s and vice versa. So it's important to be well rounded. If there was an ideal event for me, I reckon it could have been a 150. I loved running 150. I absolutely just loved running 150.
Go flat out.
Yeah, I could probably run that event flat out. I know that looking at it from a scientific point of view, you get to 60, 70 meters, your body doesn't actually go any faster. You slow down, you just maintain the speed. But I felt as though I could run 150 flat out because I'd never slowed down.
No.
If 150 was an event, I'm pretty sure I'd have made championship finals, and I'm pretty sure I would have medaled as well. But hey, we can all dream, innit? But I love running 150s.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, just wanted to go through. We've had one question from John Davis, who was asking how much time do you spend training in the bend versus the straight when you were training? And I know we're going to go through that, so just bear that in mind as you're going along. And it's so mastering the 200. So there's the technical aspects, your actual running style. When you were narrating your Commonwealth Games 200, you were talking about getting tall, knees up to your chest, like bouncing. Was that your natural style, or was that something that you developed with Mac over the years?
I think it's important. I'm going to backtrack slightly, but I'm going to get back to that in a minute. I was inspired, and anyone that knows me, my massive inspiration was Carl Lewis. And for those of you who don't know Carl Lewis, you need to study Carl Lewis. And I pretty much studied every championship that he did 200 meters. I studied it. I studied his technique. I studied his transition. I studied his acceleration. I studied everything. I modeled my style of Carl Lewis. And I remember watching him run at Seoul Olympics in the first in the first round of the 200 meters. Back then, we had 4 rounds then. And he did 20.6 in the first round qualifying. Okay, he'd already done the qualifying for the long jumps. He was already tied. I've never seen anybody run 20.6 as easy as that. And up to this day, obviously, it still inspires me, and I still got goosebumps watching him run. So I'd model my performances and my races off guys who've been there, who've paved the way. So I know we're going to talk about mental preparation in a minute. So I'm visualizing how my race should look, and I'm visualizing how I should feel. So I will set my blocks up normally. I don't set my blocks up at an angle. Sometimes fine. I'd set up normal. I set it up literally perpendicular to the line, not at an angle. Set up normal. My aim is to run close to the line, but certainly inside halfway of your lane, so you don't touch the line. And my main focus really to get your knees up, pump your arms, get your head down, okay, and maintain a good balance, all right, around the bend. Obviously, because you're on a bend, there's going to be a natural lean, okay, but just to maintain what you do in training. Competition, you're replicating what you do in training. Remember, John Reese once said to me 5 times that reinforces, you can't do what you've never done before. So if you've not run fast in training, or if you haven't hit the times in training, you're not likely to do it in competition. Obviously, there is a difference in terms of the psychology of competition with the adrenaline and anxiety and all that. So you will run really well just by the fact that it's in competition, got the adrenaline pumping. But you've got to do the basics in training, and training is important. So if you don't do it in training, the likelihood is you're not going to probably do it in competition. So what you see in competition is what I've already done in training. Doesn't make sense. And in terms of bend work, I would spend as much time on the bend than I would do on a straight. So, for example, I would do a session just on the bend, okay? And then the following day, do a session on the straight. So we wouldn't normally do bend and straight unless I'm doing acceleration runs, half bend, half straight. But we'll focus. One session would simply just be on the bend. So one would be from the blocks to the first 30. And next one would be from the 150 line, just transitioning off the bend, but we'll stay on that for the whole session. And next following day, day's rest, follow the day after that, then go on to the straight and work on transition.
How much time did you spend working on your technique in training throughout your career?
There was a Saturday technique session. We spent a good 2 to 3 hours just doing technique. I'm talking about drills. I mean, hurdle drills was going out of fashion, okay? Box work, we did plyometric work. I could give you a list of exercises just working on getting your posture, your knees and your hips high, working your core stability, working on your knees, working on your hip flexors, rotations. We did that for hours. I think I would say that your technique is your bread and for me my bread and butter. You have to maintain a good high posture, particularly when you're in flight running. You don't want your technique to break down under pressure, and it could do. So you've got to be strong. So we did a lot of technique work. We start Saturday from 9 till about 11 o'clock. Technique work. Then after that, we'll go run 150s. So you've done your technique work, okay? You've done your box jumps, so we do technique, then we do plyometrics, then we go and do 150s, 5 150s with a walk around recovery. Do you know what I mean? To really consolidate the technical work that you've done before. So we'll start training at 9 o'clock and then not finish till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Then I just go home and just pass out for the rest of the week. But that's what I did. That's what my coach told me to do. I believed in my coach's work ethic, and that's what I did. Didn't challenge it, didn't question it. He knew better than me, and I went and done it. But it worked for me, and it's also important to develop a good coach-athlete relationship, because I'm hearing so much stories that athletes are leaving for one coach, going to another coach, and leaving for one. How on earth are you gonna maintain a good, solid, consistent approach to your sport and also to your coach's work ethic if you keep jumping from coach to another? So it's really important to keep a really good coach athlete relationship. I was with my father for 12 years. He got me from a schoolboy from 16 to Commonwealth Games champion. So when I left, it was the right time for me to leave. We departed amicably, but it was great because we had 4 years together. It was almost like a marriage. He was almost like a second dad to me, and you need it. You got to have that trust and faith, and believe in your coach's work ethic. And once you have that, then for me that's going to bode well for the future. But I don't think it's unhealthy to keep jumping from coach to coach. I'm hearing a lot of stories at the moment. So Jules, things are different now. I hear one athlete go from one coach to another coach, another. It's difficult, and you don't get consistency there.
No, absolutely. So now we look at the tactical. So now 200 it's not a straightforward run at all.
It's not straightforward. You have to have masses and tons of anaerobic endurance, so on. Coupled with speed endurance. You need speed. You need to have all those elements to run, the best and perfect 100 meters. I'm blessed because my coach was a former Commonwealth Games champion, Mike McFarlane, and then had John Regis again, British record holder for 200 meters. So, I worked with some really good 200 meters, especially as well, who I worked with. I had some great training partners, Darren Braithwaite, who ran a great 200 meters as well. So I came from a good, solid foundation, bedrock of guys who knew how to run the event. So my coach, his philosophy was, in terms of tactics, is that you run the first 60 meters as fast as possible. Okay, but it's a delicate. It's quite delicate, because if you run too fast, you're not going to have anything left at the end. Okay, and you're going to run out. Okay, that's why it's important to have a really good speed endurance background. And when I mean speed endurance, I would start off the year doing fours for training. So, for example, I might do 3 4s in 60 seconds, for example, with 4 minutes recovery, and I'll run each 100 in 15 seconds, and will blow the whistle. So at each 100 meters, I need to make sure I've got there in 15 seconds, which is great. Tiring, okay, which is great. And each week, or every other week, you build up until we can run 3 4s in 52 seconds with 5 minutes recovery. So I did 4s as part of my training. And that's because I knew that at the end of the year, or certainly by championships, I need to be able to run 4 rounds back to back, without getting tired, without fatigue, without your technique diminishing, because you haven't got the you need to stay running for the whole year. Not only that, as well, you've got your domestic championships to run as well, and also I'm paid to run 200 meters, so I have to run for the whole year. So the training is going to enable you to run a whole, to be consistent, then hit a peak when you get to championships. It's all about hitting a peak at the championships. So I know I'm kind of going around the houses, but I said that to say, in terms of running your 200 meters, I run the first part flat out. Okay, so I run from 0 to 60, or 0 to roughly to where the 150 mark is, flat out. So you need to make sure that you catch a person outside you. Then you take a breather. Okay, it doesn't mean you slow down. It doesn't mean you keep going hard. You just take stock of where you are. Okay, because again, coming off the bend with a relay mark, so you have to accelerate into the home straight. So you accelerate twice. Accelerate to build up momentum to pass the person outside you. Then you kind of maintain. Then you accelerate again. Okay, so literally, it's almost you're catapulting off the bend, and I think that's probably the most important part. Then you have to raise your hips, stay relaxed, pump your arms, because when you get to the last 50. You're not going any faster, and you don't want your technique to break down. So you literally just maintain a nice high posture and stay relaxed, and hopefully get to the finish line before everybody else. Yeah. So that's how I ran it.
With that in mind, now you mentioned when we were looking at the video that you were near the line, obviously not on it. When I was doing it, I did it. It's like I was slightly further out, so I could slice off make the straight as long as possible.
Yes.
What, in terms of where you were within the lane at different parts of the race, did you have a tactic around that?
Yeah, my plan was to run in the middle of the lane where possible, and then when I got to apex of the bend, just where the relay markers, again, literally just almost run through. It's difficult to kind of explain, but the plan was to run from the middle to the inside of the lane, coming round the bend, and then when I get to apex of the bend, literally run through the middle, using that as a catapult, so that hopefully by the time I get to the home straight, I've distanced myself from my fellow competitors. So really, you want to stay in the middle to inside. Obviously, you don't want to go on the outside because you're running further than anybody else. So you certainly want to run from the middle to the inside.
Absolutely. Would your tactics be different if you were running in lane, say, one or 2, versus lane 8 on an outside outdoor?
I think it's more psychological than anything else, because most of us train in lane 1 anyway. And I've run 20.4 from lane 1. So you can run fast from lane 1. Lane 8 is great because again, you can run your own race. You've got nobody to run against, no one to kind of feel your way in a race again, but it brings a different dynamic to the race. Okay, I would prefer to be obviously middle 4 lanes, ideally. And it also depends on what track you're running as well, because certain tracks are tighter than others, and lane 1 can be really tight. But I remember running at Europa Cup for GB in, I think it was 97 or 98, and I ran in lane 1. I finished second. I should have won. I finished second, but I ran 20.42 from lane 1. So you can run fast from lane 1. It's all about your perspective and how you look at it. If you look at, oh, woe is me, I'm in lane 1, I'm going to run fast, and you're not going to run fast. If you think of it, you know what, I'm in lane 1, I'm in good shape, I'm going to run fast, then you're going to run fast. So what is your perspective going into the race? If you're going into it negatively, then you're not going to run fast. Give yourself every opportunity. Athletics is hard enough as it is. So if you go into a competition, be positive. You know, give yourself the best opportunity to execute your best race.
Absolutely. What you say about tracks is some tracks literally feel like you're running around a corner.
Yes.
Others, the bend is longer than the straight, so it's you need to be able to adapt.
Exactly. I like my technique there. I can see in that caption. That was a 3As in 2003. It was a head-to-head between me, Marlon, and Christian Malcolm. And as you can see, comes the bend. My plan to maintain my technique, because I knew that he's going to be coming. Christian was a fantastic run. I mean, you had Christian Malcolm, you know, Darren Cameron in that race, and Marlon Devonish. You know, and all of us in terms of our PBs are quite similar. The only reason why I won that race there, because one, I was confident in my ability, and I ran my own race. Really important. I executed my race plan to the T. It was a close race. I ran 20:37, and Christian ran 20:39. So it was a tight race, but I maintained my form right throughout the race, and I didn't decelerate as much as I would have done if I had tensed up. You know, if my training regime and my training plan wasn't of the standard that my coach was happy with, and I trained really hard that year.
Right. And with that in mind, physical. This is something that people that have been around me for a little bit know that I believe in making sure you're prepared for the rounds. And you mentioned that you were good in the gym, but your friend was.
Yeah, I mean, I tell anybody this, and you know, I hated weights. Okay, weights obviously is important. Your body your musculature has to be such that you can deal with the inch and a pound of running every day. So you have to do your weights. Yeah, I completely understand that. I hated weights. Okay, my best bench was 102.5 kg. My best clean was 100. My best clean was 105 kg. And the race weight was 67 kg. So my power was really good. Okay, relative to my size, relative to my somatotype. You know, my somatotype is tall and skinny. I wasn't like a mesomorph like Linford Christie, you know, stocky, muscly. So I had to do what worked for me. So I did what I need to do in the gym, but I excelled in doing plyometrics, which increases your elasticity and increase your muscular strength and explosive power. So I did a lot of plyometric training, a lot of box work, a lot of hurdle jumps. In some respects, I kind of train like a jumper because I do a lot of triple jump steps into the sandpit. I could do a hop step jump from the 13-meter line on the runway. So I was really good at bounding. So bounding again was my bread and butter. I wasn't strong as the guys in the gym, and I didn't need to be, because we're all different. I was never gonna lift weights like Tony Jarrett or Darren Braithwaite. Those guys were in the gym. They were monsters in the gym. They're fantastic. But I can bound really good, and it's one thing that my coach kind of installed in me. We do a session of bounding, and we'll bound, you know, for a good couple of hours on a Saturday morning. And before they do bounding, we're doing a technique work as well. So we do a technique work, we do bounding, and then finish up 150s. And I've said it before, but that's a level of training that you have to do if you want to, compete with the best in the world. But I must admit, I love bounding. I did single leg bunny hops. Sometimes we'll bunny hop across the field in the middle of the track, single leg. So I might start from my left leg, then my right leg, then double leg. And we'll band over 3 for 6 hurdles, one after the other. We'll vary it up a little bit. We did a lot of bounding upstairs. technique work upstairs. We did a lot. I mean, I can write a book in the amount of bounding work I did. But also that comes back to I had a really good coach that again did a lot of bounding, Mike McFarlane, who was fantastic at bounding. So I learned a lot from him, a lot from Clarence as well, a lot from other coaches that I'd worked with and spoken to and got advice from. And it's important when you get advice from coaches. You know, your coach is your source. There's no harm in talking to other coaches to find out what they're doing, but you always go back to the source, and your source is the coach that you're working with.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we did a lot of bounding, and that's conditioning your body with impact work of running around a bend, because sprinting is a lot of impact work.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, sprinting is just putting a load of plyometrics together, many plyos. So Dominic McNeils has said, you look like a person, look like you were born with long legs and are very light. Did this influence the way you chose to run and how your coaching was built?
Not really. As Dominic is right, my frame is called, I'm what's called an ectomorph. Ectomorph is characterized by narrow shoulders and narrow hips. I'm tall and skinny. That's just the way I'm built. So I'm never going to be an explosive runner. If I use Limper Christie, for example, I mean, he's run 6.4 for 60 meters. Phenomenal. So I'm never, and that's probably why I didn't really excel at perhaps at 100, because I wasn't really explosive like some of the really dynamic, 100-meter sprinters. So therefore, perhaps I was always suited to the 200 meters because of my frame. And I suppose I took advantage of that. I capitalized on that, and that's probably why the plyometric training really helped me with my frame to explosive as much as I can, particularly running around the bend. Having long legs doesn't help, but saying that, I just have to say, look at Usain Bolt, absolutely phenomenal. I could talk about that guy all day long, but we're not here to talk about Usain Bolt. But he was absolutely phenomenal. That's all I can say. He's rewritten the record books in terms of his stature, how he generated speed. He was phenomenal. So if you're tall, you can run around the bend. If he can do it at 6'5", and I could do it, at 6'1". Yeah. So yeah, I suppose I was born to run 200 meters rather than the 100. And could I run 100? Probably. Could I have trained for it? Probably not, because it was tough. I mean, I knew my limitations, and I mean, I trained for 400 meters, man. I thought, nah. So mentally, I probably just couldn't deal with it. But I reckon I could do a good one. I thought, though.
Right, absolutely. So that segues perfectly. Neil Tunstall says all the sprinters we have talked to include a fair amount of 400 training to do the 100 and the 200. Is this significant? And he was saying, I run slower when I only do speed and faster from 400 training. So the significance of doing those kind of distances, I know that we were raised on it. We don't know any other way. Why does it work?
For me, it worked for me. I pretty much trained like a 400 meter stroke, 200 meter sprinter. So I did a lot of distance work. So I did threes, I did fours, I did fives. Hated it, but I did it. I ran 31.6 for 300 meters in training. I can run 32.5 for 2 reps for 300 meters in training. So Matt will say, right, I want to see where you're at now. So he said, right, you're going to do two threes, full recovery. Hated it. So I can knock out 32.5, 15 to 18 minutes, come back 32.8. I'm actually on my face by the end of it, but that's a level of work that I needed to do. I also did a flat out 500, 62 seconds for 500 meters. Hated it, but that's a level of work that you need to do to sustain yourself and also run at the level of that I needed to do to run with the guys I'm running against. I'm running against some of the best guys in the world, and if they're running 60 seconds or 62 seconds for 500 meters and running 32 seconds and 31 seconds for 300 meters, then I've got to be doing the same as well. I mean, I've run 14.6 for a 150 in training as well, and that's two, not one. That's two back to back. So Matt said, right, 150s today. You know, I've got to run two 150s. You know, in sub 15, and I have to run 3 in 15 flat. That's what I did in training. And I remember, I think one of my best training sessions in America in 1998, I ran 15-2, 15-1, 15 flat with full recovery. But that's what I had to do in order to with the best guys in the world. And my first race, I ran 2020, and I ran 20.2 pretty much 4 or 5 times that year. But I made it to the final, you know, of the World Championships and finished top 8 in the World Championships. But that's how I had to train. I did 2s, I did 3s, I did 4, I did 5s. Hated it. Don't get me wrong. And if you ask me, you know, if you gave me a choice to do it, I would have backed out and gone for the easy option. But I'm glad that my coach was hard with me, and I'm glad that he made me do it, because it made me the sprinter that I am today.
Absolutely. And you yesterday you were telling me a coach that you met once said what you needed to run in a 500 to run sub 10.
Yeah, he was saying it was TC, is an agent, Trevor Cameron, from America, and he's saying, man, if you wanna break 20 seconds, you gotta run 2 561 seconds. That you're good to go. And I remember that played in my mind, but I thought, boy, it's got to be done. Didn't quite make 2 in the 61, but I did run 63 and 62. Hard work, but that's because those are the times that the guys in America was. I mean, Maurice Green ran 500s. You know, and he ended up being world record holder, and he won the world championships 3 times. So if Maurice Green can run 500s, then you better believe I need to run 500s. Atta Bolden ran 500s, and these are the guys that I was running against. Atta Bolden ran 977, and no 98 he ran, I believe, and 1977. Yeah, he ran, and he ran 3s and 5s. So if they can do it, then who am I?
Absolutely. So obviously, we've built up your ability to do and handle these sessions. We've had a question here from Robert Emson, and he says, "Hi, Julian. What was your favourite session as a junior?" And he said he coaches juniors, and he's going to give it to them. But you have to be careful that they're ready for it. But what was your favourite session as a junior?
Favorite session, wow. I remember our coach giving us flat out or flying 110s. Okay, so we do 3 110s. The first 10 was rolling, and you start the clock from the 100 meters start to the end. So we do three of those. Remember, in 1991, Mike ran with me. Okay. And he beat me over 110 as a junior. Beat me.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I think he got to be 31 then, and I was 16. But I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it. So he said it didn't really matter how fast you ran the first thing, because it was a rolling 110, and we did 3 of those. So I enjoyed the 10, and the plan was to try to get the rolling 110 as a junior. Under 10 seconds, or 10.5, or even quicker than that, actually 10.1, something along it. It's rolling fast from a standing start. But I was only 16 then. We did like 60s, so we do 5 60s, which I enjoyed as a junior. But I also did 150s. So I remember us doing 3 150s as a junior, and I run them, 15.8, 15.9. My best time was like 15.5 as a junior. But remember, it's just training times, not your competition time. But I really enjoyed it, junior. So yeah, those are sessions I enjoyed. And again, I did 4s as a junior, and I hated doing 4s as a junior. But 4s, for me, that's your base to develop a really good aerobic threshold for your 200 meters. Even though 200 meters is anaerobic, but you need to have a really good aerobic threshold as well, because you have to have really good speed endurance background.
Absolutely. Well, a question here from Mike Leonard. He says, "How do you see the difference between angling the blocks and keeping them straight? Did you try angling them, and how did that affect the first part of your race?"
I did both. When I first started, I saw an athlete angle their blocks. So I did it because he angled his block so that for the first 10 meters you're running pretty much in a straight line because he angled it into the apex of the bend. And then my coach once said to me, I believe he was Matt McFly, said to me, don't bother angling it, just set it up straight. It made no difference to me, but everybody's different. I think you need to do what works for you. It was no difference to me in angling it or actually setting it up straight. I think it's a matter of personal preference. I would say do what works for you. Try both. Try both. And if you think angling works for you, do that. It didn't really quite work for me as a senior then because by then I was used to just setting the box up straight, and it worked for me. Try it in training and see it works for you. It's just a preference for me to angle it up straight than angling it at an angle to hit the apex of the bend.
Yeah, there's that piece there of your coach knowing you as an athlete, so adapting and changing because he knows you.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on, the last part, we've got a couple of questions. It's perfectly timed. Is your mental preparation for your races? Thinking about championship performances, tough races. Donovan is online. He said, "What was your mental approach after a bad race?" And Danita has a question, but yeah, it's you had an astounding training group. I know that much.
Yeah, we had. I mean, the list will go long for mentioning the athletes that I trained with. So already I was at a psychological advantage because I trained with some of the fastest guys in the world. So once you train with these guys week in and week out, okay, and then coming into a competition, but if I train with these guys and we're pretty much at the same level in training, then competition, you hopefully should get the best out of me. So, and everybody had different strengths and different abilities in training. So going into a competition, I was confident in the fact that I knew that I was going to train or going to run really, really well. One of my first 3A's finals, the first 5 were my training group. It was Tony Jarrett, Darren Braithwaite, and John Regis, and we all trained together. And I was just emerging then as a sprinter, so I trained these guys week in and week out. And in the 3A's, all 5 of us finished top 5 in the final. So for me, that mental approach really, really helped as well. Also, mentally visualizing your outcome for your race. So what outcome do you want for your race? How would you deconstruct each segment of the race? Have that in your mind before you go into the race. So perhaps have an area, or if for example, you can't feel what 50 meters is like, maybe when you go to competition, there are advertising boards around the competitions, right? I'm going to run hard to there, relax here, and then kick off the turn here. So have a mental picture in your mind, as you know, it's called visualization of what your perceived outcome is going to be. And then, I know it sounds funny, I imagine myself as Carl Lewis. But why not? He's one of the greatest. And if he can do it, why can't I? So that was my philosophy. It worked for me. It won't work for everybody else, but that's what I did, and that's what helped me.
And when a race did not go well, go to plan.
I had loads of races that didn't go well. And I suppose the most important thing is have people around you that have your best interests at heart, and have people around us that give you sound advice. And I'm thankful that throughout my career there was loads of people. Like I can list the name, loads of people that really helped me psychologically in terms of giving you pep talks and talking to you about the race. I know you mentioned Donovan Reeders there. He was great as well. Remember, as a junior going to competitions, and he'd been there, and he was sitting us down and giving me advice. And he's somebody I looked up to. I remember watching him in the 3A's in 1985, and I was a 10-year-old kid watching Donovan and watching Mike McFarlane compete. So he's somebody that I respected and admired. I want to have people that has your best interest at heart and can give you a sound advice, not just tell you what you want to hear. It's easy to go the flow, but have people that's going to give you the advice that you need to help you to achieve what you're capable of achieving, and don't have unrealistic and lofty goals. Keep smart goals that that you can achieve, because it's you're only gonna be disheartened if your goals are unrealistic. And it is difficult, don't get me wrong. Going into a race, like if I use the Commonwealth Games, for example, final, my last final before that was Budapest. And my mindset was, I am not going to make the same mistake twice. And again, sport is short-lived. And you may not always get the opportunity to be in a final. So once you get into a major final, enjoy it, relish it, embrace it, soak up the atmosphere. I love being in the stadium. I loved running in a packed crowd. I loved it. Some people might find it a little bit too anxious, or some people might experience the inverted U theory. You have a aroused state of arousal, and it plateaus and it goes down again. It doesn't work for everybody. But I'm what's called the drive theory. Give me that heightened state of arousal, and it just goes up and up and up. But I love that, and that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. So if you know that you've had a bad race, look at what went wrong, discuss it with your coach, try to rectify it in training. I know training is different to competition, and then have it in your mind not to make the same mistake twice. And then once you get the start line, do what you do best. Don't try to think too much about it. Sprinting could be difficult enough as it is. Give yourself small targets to think of. Don't think too much and just run. Do what you do in training.
Absolutely. So Denise Benjamin, she was competing with us when we were under 23. She was going back to your illness at the Olympic trials. How did you recover from this mentally? You very much inspired me, as your running technique was your own uniqueness.
Yeah, it was difficult. And I remember after the trials, crying to a friend of mine down the phone. And then he said, maybe there's something wrong with you. Because I thought, because I felt fine. I thought I was okay. And it wasn't until I, got some blood tests done, I realised that, I had a blood disorder. And it was difficult. Don't get me wrong, it was tough. You have to wallow in self-pity for a while, because I'm only human, and the Olympic Games is a pinnacle of every athlete's career. You want to be able to compete in the Olympics. You want to be able to say that you've got an Olympic vest. And when I knew it wasn't going to happen, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. But you've got to bounce back from that. Okay, you've got to bounce back from that. I had a different training regime. I had to make sure I had to rest, give myself more time to rest, so I can recuperate, make sure I eat the right foods. My diet was awful. I'm not talking about my diet. Those are things that I could have done differently, which I know now. But also always have it in the back of your mind that you are going to bounce back. You're not a bad athlete overnight. Okay, if you're talented, that talent will shine. It did take time for me, and after I was diagnosed with the illness, it took about 2 years for me to get back to where I was before. And then again, I got injured on top of that as well, which didn't help. So Edmonton, 2001, I got injured before Edmonton. And then at the World Championships in Munich, I got injured there as well. So 2 years in the doldrums. So yeah, you could say mentally, I was, how on earth am I going to get back to running how I did before I got injured? So it is a massive psychological ladder. But if you believe in your ability, and if you know that you believe in your coach's training philosophy, you will bounce back. And it's having that inner confidence that you're going to bounce back. You just have to stay injury free. And thankfully, 2003, I was injury free, and I was able to, get my international vest back again.
Absolutely.
So I hope I've answered your question.
Absolutely. That's very insightful, because it's always easy to do things when everything's going swimming, and
exactly.
But when it's there's an uphill climb, it's another thing. So I just the last slide here, I've got mastering the indoor 200, because these are the quotes from where we spoke yesterday.
Yeah.
Can't relax.
I must admit, I loved running indoors. I didn't do it enough, but I loved it. And 200 meters was, in 1998, I suppose I ran against probably the best Ben runner, and I'll say it in the world at the time, was Alan Condon. He had the correct somatotype for the indoors. He was short, he was stocky, he was powerful, and he ran that first bend faster than anybody else. And I see him just eating up the stagger. Whoever's in front of him, he literally passed them within 10, 15 meters. Had gone past them, and he just kept on going. So 200 indoors is different to 200 outdoors. I'm gutted that they've stopped doing major championships indoors for 200 meters. I think 200 meters is still a thrilling event to watch indoors, and they've stopped it. So my record of 20.46 probably won't be beaten now, from a British point of view, because we don't do it enough indoors. But yes, it's different. It's different from outdoors. You've got to run the first bend hard. You've got to make sure you accelerate down the back straight. Again, you have to go up another slope. You've got to maintain that, then accelerate again, coming off the final bend. So it's tough, but I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, to be fair, I wish I ran more 200 meters indoors. And I remember modeling my 200 meter indoor running technique from Frankie Fredericks, who's got the world indoor record, 1998. I saw him running in Leavan and in the outside lane. Him like methodically, like I said, I'm a student of my sports. I'm gonna analyze and critique and dissect how you run each section, each phase of the race. And I saw him do it, and I thought, if Frank can do it, then I'm gonna do it. And I literally modeled what he did, and use that myself. And also, again, go back to John Regis, again, fantastic indoor runner. We worked a lot together in indoors, again with Mike Farland as well. So yeah, again, the training's got to be up to scratch. You've got to be strong enough to run hard and run 3 rounds for the 200 meters as we did in the heats. But I loved it. Literally, it's flat out, and flat out again.
Absolutely.
But you only can do that if you've got a good base behind you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, just wanted to play. I love watching this one. 3As, 1999. Talk us through this one.
Oh yeah. Yes, I remember this race. I was in good form going into this race, but I was obviously nervous because it is a domestic championship, national championships, and if you don't win, you don't get selected. But I remember running a really good bend, and I had John Regis beside me, so I caught him quite early. Again, I'm just going to relax it and accelerate into the bend. And you had Marlon Devlish inside of me. So it's a case of just maintaining your form, staying relaxed, and running through the line. And the reason I put my hand up there, I was just glad, to finish being number 1. And again, run 20.2, run 20.2 pretty much the whole year. But it was a great race for me. Training had gone well prior to, so leading up to the championships, training had gone well. I executed each phase of my race. I did have a blip. I went to Europe and ran really bad in Europe. I think I ran 20.8. And I didn't run as well as I could have done. Again, you can let that play in your mind. But like I said, sometimes you get to championships and it's almost like you get there, your first race, and everything just clicks. And I remember jogging 2089. I wish I could do that now. And then in the semi-final, I ran 20:37, comfortable. So I thought, okay, then I just wish I'd run for the line. I could have run under 20 seconds, but hey, that's where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one last question. Dale Peters says, what are some drills you can use to master the 200? Now, obviously drills are drills, but are there any drills that you thought were specific or helped you specifically for the 200 over the 100, say, because you did those as well, or the 60? Anything specifically for the 200?
I suppose I did a lot. I did a lot of hurdle drills. And that's to work on you've been able to maintain a high posture, your hip flexors. That's really important to maintain a really, obviously coming off the bend, you got to stay nice and tall, and you have to maintain your form. So I did a lot of hurdle drills, loads of hurdle drills. So doing hurdle drills will help your core stability, help your hip flexors, help with your range of motion, and help with your flexibility. And also, I did a lot of plyometrics. Plyometrics helped me as well as doing a lot of hurdle drills. So I would say hurdle drills, plyometrics, and bounding. And I'm not sure if that answers your question, because there isn't a specific drill for 200 meters. drills are drills. So you have drills for 200 meters. You have drills for running. They're running drills. They're simply running drills. So each drill works on a specific component of your event. So I did a lot of drills to really work on my core stability and work on my hip flexors, work on my hip rotation to keep my hips nice and supple, and to help work on my flexibility. Some flexibility now as well. The ability to have the flexibility and also to maintain the speed coming around the bend.
Thank you so much, Julian. This has been fantastic just to have your analysis. Your attention to detail is something that's been so remarkable and outstanding. You can remember so much times as well as who was in the race, who ran what. That's a testament to how seriously you took your whole athletics career and your approach to it, which is, that alone is something that people can learn from. So thank you very, very much for sharing. Really appreciate the time you've taken today to share your journey and your philosophies and your hard work throughout your career. Thank you very much, Jules.
No problem, Professor. I appreciate it.
All right.
For listening.
So, sorry?
Thanks to everybody for listening as well, for tuning in.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And thanks for putting it together. Thanks for asking as well, Shani, because you didn't have to ask me. So thanks for asking me.
Oh no, absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. And if you can see the chat box, everybody's like, thank you.
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
That's got everybody's listening. So thank you once again, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again soon. Trust me. So, thanks very much, Jules, and we'll see you all later. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.